Hello and welcome to Down to Disness, a monthly series where I pick a Disney animated movie, talk about its history and its impact on pop culture. This month's movie is Sleeping Beauty, released in 1959. Disney's third princess movie. For me, Sleeping Beauty has always been one of the most visually stunning Disney movies of all the Disney movies. And the reason why Sleeping Beauty is so stylistically different from a lot of the other movies is because Walt Disney was afraid that Sleeping Beauty would be too similar to Snow White. Not only in its story, princess with an evil onlooker goes to hide away in the woods for a while, but in its look and feel. Walt enlisted the help of an artist named Eyvind Earle to work on the look of Sleeping Beauty. What Earle came up with is the very angular look that Sleeping Beauty has, which was actually really time consuming to do. It took Disney over 6 years to finish this film and over $6 million, which was the most any animated feature had cost up until that time. Earle was also the man behind the opening sequence book, which was actually a real book that was restored in 2008 and is now on display in the Disney archives. Another reason why it took them so long to finish Sleeping Beauty was because they were also working on Disneyland at the same time, which was kind of the priority at the Disney company. Think about it, Disneyland opened in 1955, Sleeping Beauty opened in 1959. You might be thinking, Sarah, if Disneyland opened in 1955 and Sleeping Beauty premiered in 1959, then how did they create Sleeping Beauty Castle? Why was Sleeping Beauty Castle the one chosen for Disneyland? That's a good question. Sleeping Beauty Castle was actually supposed to be Snow White's castle as a tribute to the original Disney princess. But in an effort to promote their newest film, Sleeping Beauty, they decided to make it Sleeping Beauty's castle, and thus Sleeping Beauty Castle was born. I can't imagine Disneyland with any other themed castle, and since Disneyland, Sleeping Beauty Castle has appeared at other Disney theme parks. Sleeping Beauty, like many Disney animated movies, had a few firsts and a few lasts. Sleeping Beauty was the first animated movie ever to be filmed in widescreen 70mm format, and it was the last Disney animated movie to feature hand-inked cells, which are the foreground parts that the characters are then placed onto. We've talked a lot about the voice actors for Sleeping Beauty in past episodes of Down to Disness, like Cinderella, for example. As I previously mentioned, Verna Fenton, who voices Flora in Sleeping Beauty, also voiced Dumbo's mother, the Queen of Hearts, and the fairy godmother in Cinderella. The voice of Maleficent is also the voice of Lady Tremaine in Cinderella, and Madame Leota on the Haunted Mansion. And did you know that Mary Costa, the voice of Aurora, is a professional opera singer who's been in more than 40 operatic productions? Yeah, she did. What's funny is that Mary Costa was actually from Tennessee and had a very thick southern accent, which almost prevented her from being cast as Aurora. But they had enough faith that she would be able to keep it under wraps for the duration of the movie. And while Costa was the voice of Aurora, Helene Stanley was of course the live-action reference model for Aurora, and we also know that she did Cinderella and Anita from 101 Dalmatians. Bill Shirley, the voice of Prince Philip, had to audition with Mary Costa to make sure that their voices blended well together. And Prince Philip was actually Bill's last credited role, although he did do some uncredited roles after Sleeping Beauty. Have you ever realized that Philip was kind of the first Disney prince to have a personality? This is partially due to the fact that it was the first time Walt Disney would trust his animators to be able to animate a man believably. The reason why Snow's prince doesn't do anything is because he didn't think that they would be able to animate a realistic male character. Aurora is actually one of the Disney characters with the least lines of all of Disney history. The only character that beats her for the least amount of lines is Dumbo, who has 0 lines. Aurora has 18 lines in the whole movie. She doesn't even say a single word after the point at which she's woken up from her sleeping spell. She wakes up and then the movie ends. There's a couple very famous versions of Sleeping Beauty, one by Charles Perrault and one by the Brothers Grimm. In Perrault's version, his character is named Aurora, and in the Grimm version, she's named Briar Rose. Disney took both of those versions and used both names. Another fun fact for you is that in the beginning of the film, when the fairies are discussing how to help the king and queen avoid the spell, Merryweather makes Mickey Mouse shaped cookies. Unfortunately, Sleeping Beauty was technically a box office bomb in that it did not make up the cost of production. It caused the Disney company to post a loss for the first time since the 1940s. And because it didn't do so well, Disney was afraid to do any other princess movies for a very long time. And I mean a very long time. Like 30 years. They didn't make another princess movie until Ariel in The Little Mermaid in 1989. Good thing they went back to that though, am I right? Luckily the movie did win at least one Oscar nomination for its score. More than a lot of other Disney movies, Sleeping Beauty really reminds me of the Disney theme parks, mostly because Disneyland's castle is Sleeping Beauty Castle, but also because there's a lot of Sleeping Beauty stuff in the parks. And it's always been a constant mystery to me why Sleeping Beauty used to appear in her blue dress and now only appears in her pink dress. Which reminds me me, the scene where the fairies are deciding whether Aurora's dress should be blue or pink was inspired by the fact that the animators themselves could not decide whether Aurora's dress should be blue or pink. So they wrote it into the script, because that was really happening. As a kid who grew up with Disneyland, I'll always have a soft spot for Sleeping Beauty because of Disneyland, and just seeing all those images from opening day, Walt walking under the castle, giving his opening day speech from the hub with the castle right behind him, it's just everything feels like Sleeping Beauty to me at Disneyland, and that's why I'll always love it. Let me know in the comments down below what stands out for you about the movie Sleeping Beauty, and as always, leave a suggestion for what I should do my next Down to Disness on. I've almost covered all the princesses. If you haven't seen those episodes, the links will be in the description box below. I've done Snow White and Cinderella, as well as Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, a few others, so check them out if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys very soon for another episode of Down to Disness. Bye!